we are being joined by Mahesh Vishwanathan, who is the CFO at Finolex Cable. Hi, very good morning, Mahesh, and thank you so much for your time to ET Now. Firstly, talking about your growth, that came in weaker than the peers. So can you share where the growth came from and whether volume or that was a value-based growth that you have witnessed, and what is the outlook for FY24?
Well, we've had both value as well as volume-based growth. The value growth was about 19% at the top line. But within the segments, electrical cables, which is our largest revenue grower, grew about 29% in volumes compared to corresponding period last year. I think we are seeing definite improvement in the activity levels around the construction industry, around infrastructure growth. And I think all that bodes well for us going forwards, whether it is in the next couple of quarters or even down the line, mid to long term. I do see that as a positive going forwards. Margins have stabilized at around 13%. Traditionally, we have always remained at about 13-14% EBIT margins on the electrical cable side. And we've come back to those levels again. There was a slight dip last year, but we've regained ground on. EBITDA margins are strong, as your screen shows, 12.2% in the current quarter. And communication cables, while the volume improvement was substantial, we have two kinds of cables there, one which is metal-based and one which is fiber-based. The metal-based products clocked a growth of about 17% in volumes, and fiber-based was almost 50% higher. But there was price pressure, as you may be aware, with a lot of fiber getting dumped into the country from overseas. And as a matter of fact, the government 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago, brought in an anti-dumping legislation, which I think should help correct the realizations going forwards. Also, the announcement 2 weeks ago that the cabinet has approved 1.4 lakh crore expansion on the broadband connectivity towards the last mile. It should also help us going forwards.
Point taken. Good morning, Mr. Vishwanathan. This is Cheryl also joining in the conversation. And you did speak about the margins. You did mention the fact that it was healthy in the quarter gone by. But is there any possibility of a margin expansion going forward from the current rate, approximately 10 to 12%? And also, how do you see the volatility in the copper prices impacting your margins? What are the factors that you think it will drive going ahead?
See, we have always tried to keep metal as well as polymer prices as a pass-through. So whether whatever volatility there is in the input prices, with a small lag, we pass it on to the customers. So if it goes up, then there is a price increase, or if it goes down, there is a price reduction in the selling prices. So we've always tried to keep that as a pass-through with probably a small lag, and that strategy will continue going forwards. As far as what was your other question? This was on whether there is a possibility of the margin expanding. Overall margins can expand as the communication segment grows in revenue and more capacity gets utilized. And I think that's where the big capex from the government sector is going to help us going forwards.
Okay, Mr. Mahesh, so how is the demand likely to trend out across your categories, that is cables and wire, FMCG and communication cable? What's the outlook for FY24 then?
We have seen signs of active growth on the construction side. There is also growth in the infra spending. So I think both those bode well for us going forward. Now, this is not likely to be limited to 1 quarter or 2 quarters. There is that sustained spending, if it continues, will be good for us going forwards in the medium and long term as well. As far as communication cables is concerned, more spends on the 5G applications or more applications coming on the 5G will be good for us, because that will entail more fiber to be laid on the ground, and therefore more business for us.
Mr. Vishwanathan, just wanted to understand what's the current order book looking like for your company, and also if any guidance that you can leave us with for FY24?
The current level of activity sustains, then you should see similar growth by the end of the year as well.
If everything remains the same, you should see a better growth or a similar level of better growth for FY24. And what's your order book like right now then?
Well, ours is largely a distribution-led business. So 70% of our business comes from the retail trade. We don't follow an order book kind of a thing there. Whereas on communication cables, I think at the moment we have about 80-90 crores of orders on hand, which is let's say 2 months order book.
Okay, Mr. Vishwanathan, we'll let you go on that. Thank you so much for joining us today on ET Now and helping with your take onto the growth outlook ahead. So that was the management of Finolex Cable telling us about the margin trajectory going ahead, where he expects that the margins will come back to 13 to 14% going ahead as well. So that's the way. But the stock is actually down about 5.5%. But